Hello, what lurks beneath. I'm a lifeguard at Harriet Beach in Miami, Florida. Or I was. I am writing into you to discuss and inform you of a recent incident just a few years ago on one of the beach resorts that has completely ravaged the tourism industry and led to a total lack of visitors in this very small area. Now, unless you're from there, you probably didn't really hear much of it, but this happened very quickly and was quickly cleaned up. I had been a lifeguard there for a while, about 10 years, since I was 18. I loved my job, the ocean, the people, even the beach bum life. It was my jam. But every day, I was beginning to feel this beach and resort had become something of a horror flick. Strange things had been happening. Very strange, disturbing things. At the time, and I still think there is, was a full-scale FBI investigation into the circular events occurring. Myself and the rest of the staff there were huge subjects in this investigation and were constantly being questioned. If you are reading this, well, you need to dismiss your notion of Florida as a haven of relaxation, enjoyment, and leisure, and instead, imagine a place where you feel unsafe, disturbed, and clouded in a feeling of impending terror. This is worse than Jaws. I don't know how much it's been cleaned up and taken care of since the COVID issue, but this is how it was when I was there. It was January that the first incident happened. I was catching a few waves on my surfboard, as we do when it's quiet. This was like 6 a.m., and so there wasn't many on the beach, except for a few joggers. I had my swimming shorts on and my seafoam green surfboard. It was tied to my ankle using a long leather leash like many surfers do. The currents were a little wild, and I remember feeling a little unsettled that the waves seemed to be stirring from all different directions and seemed a little erratic. They were usually totally calm and serene at this time in the morning. I saw a huge wave coming, and I couldn't wait to ride it. This was my life. Feeling free, alive, and at one with the ocean. It was an epic wave, and as I shot up on my surfboard, my glance extended right to my Pinewood Beach hut, where I would look out at the sunset with my own binoculars. As I rode that wave, feeling the electric adrenaline sent jolts of excitement up my spine and right to my head. My eyes shot down to my feet as the hazy sight of something like blood seemed to be seeping from my own ankle. Uh-oh. I gently stopped my surfboard and sat on it, putting my feet up to get a closer look. My ankle had been badly wounded, and blood was coursing out in a steady stream, modifying the azure blue with great bursts of explosive red. Okay, maybe not that dramatic, but you get the idea. It was the strangest thing, as I had zero sensation of pain and no knowledge of having been bitten by anything. Shark attacks were common, but I knew how to read the signs, and my surfboard had a fin at the bottom to avert any shark attacks from occurring. Still though, I scanned the waters and saw nothing. At that moment, I turned around at the sight of something large and green swimming about 15 feet away from me. As the water was pure from this side, I noticed it had scales, large spikes, and what looked like teeth on its back. Was this a crocodile? I didn't think we had saltwater crocodiles down here. It was utterly bizarre. This creature turned around in a circle and protruded its face above the water, so it was not facing me. That's when my stomach sank, witnessing a large creature with a face of that of a dinosaur from times gone. Large eyes the size of small footballs, green, thick, scaly skin, and a green horn which was jagged and extending about 1 foot above its forehead. I had never seen such a creature before, and I knew instantly it was responsible for the wound on my foot. I managed to swim gently back to the shore and observe the creature as I stood there in the sand. My wound still coursing speckles of blood on the sand. So, I limped back to my hut, and after bandaging my foot, tried to use my binoculars to observe if the creature was still there, and if there was any more nearby. I immediately informed my manager, who decided to close that part of the beach for the day. He thought it was just some kind of fish, and that maybe I had just exaggerated the sighting, which is not uncommon when you're being pumped full of adrenaline and fear. But I knew what I saw. So, I took 2 weeks off on medical grounds. Even though my foot healed and I felt better, my nerves were completely wrecked. No one believed me or took me seriously. Not even my girlfriend, friends, or close family. They all believed it was too early in the morning and I was tired. But listen, I know what I saw. It was something monstrous. Some creature that I've never seen before, and I'm not sure if anybody else has. When I returned, the beach was running again as normal, and it was busier than ever. As I sat there in my hut, I looked from left to right, and it was extraordinary hearing and seeing such joy when just 2 weeks before, it had been a scene of terror. I always felt super comfortable working in the sea, having always been an avid swimmer. But as I looked out into the ocean, I felt sick and couldn't imagine anything worse than having to go back into it. Thankfully, there were no incidents in which I needed to rescue anybody. I began to see the creature everywhere. If anyone was swimming with a green t-shirt, my eyes would play tricks and I would shoot up, expecting to see some mayhem and carnage unfold before my eyes. A jolt of fear would trickle down my body, and I would break out in a cold sweat, even though it was ridiculously hot outside. I knew this wasn't a healthy way to live, and so I decided to seek help from my doctor. I started anti-anxiety medication and told the doctor about what I saw. Like everyone else, he put the vision down to stress and asked me if I used any recreational drugs at the time. I was really pissed off. As I sat home during one of my off days, I was surviving off crap food, toast and Twinkies. I couldn't even make love to my girlfriend, and I'm a 28-year-old guy with a beautiful girl. Whatever creature this was, it had unsettled me in a way that I never encountered. Just total anxiety. I even tried listening to some calm music, even some ASMR, but every time I closed my eyes, the large glassy eyes of the beast, cold and monstrous, would send a jolt of panic down my spine, and I would subconsciously flap my arms as if trying to swim away from the horror. I even had a secret desire for the creature to reappear and wound somebody else, so I would know that I had not gone crazy, at least not entirely. As I sat there in my lonely apartment, my phone rang, and it was my manager. He told me I needed to come in, and that I wouldn't want to miss this, and that he believed me. I remember sighing deeply, knowing that when I arrived, there was likely going to be another attack. But I didn't press him for any more details. I told him I would be there as quick as I could. So I took my bike, and I remember I pedaled maniacally. My legs were so numb and felt like jelly when I arrived because I pushed so hard. I didn't even bother to fasten my bike or secure it. I remember I just left it and ran to the office, where I was likely to meet my manager and be informed of whatever had happened. I remember that as I arrived at the office, our reception lady had pointed me to the very edge of the beach, close to the waves, where there was a large crowd that had gathered around what looked like a washed-up animal. It was green and long, and I instantly knew what it was. The beach was empty. It had obviously been evacuated, and there were cops circling around the area with clipboards, taking photographs. It was a surreal sight, like a crime scene right there, like I was living on the real-life set of CSI Miami. No children laughing, no ice cream, just the taste of fear in my mouth as I bit my lips, nearly causing it to bleed with trepidation. My manager had gestured to me to walk down, and I held onto my stomach, hoping I would not churn out the contents of my breakfast. My manager had informed me afterwards that the police had arrived as a beast, a reptilian-like sea creature, had its stomach severed. It was now dead, and it was found to have at least 5 to 6 human remains in its stomach. The remains were obviously detached and fragmented, but there was a forensic team on site who were confident that it was more than just one body. There was also a marine biologist present, taking more photographs and using his portable computer. I remember him squinting over the screen, and he simply didn't know what it was, and that he had never encountered such a thing. I'd asked my colleagues even, but the species was unknown from what I heard. One of the officers had informed me that this would be an ongoing investigation, and that some kind of plan needed to be conjured to stop people from using this section of beach. If word got out that a creature like this was commonly swimming in the water, there would be panic. Thankfully, no real word got out that I'm aware of, so I didn't have to worry about it going viral. And surprisingly, there really hasn't been any images of it that I can find on Google or Pinterest or anything. But of course, to me, the beast was real, and I was attacked by it. Luckily, it should be buried in the past, buried where it can't get to anybody, and nobody has to know it exists. As I write this, I can only thank the universe for protecting me. To have escaped with such a mild wound was amazingly lucky. This creature had obviously been intent on killing me and consuming me. It was a terrible end for anybody. I thought of those poor souls who had met such a tragic end. Had they enjoyed surfing like me? Were they adults, practically children, or were these recent killings of the time? It's not uncommon for surfers and swimmers to go missing or to drown and their bodies to not be recovered. I mean, usually bodies are recovered, but missing persons does happen, even on the ocean. To think that my job, which at the time I had relished and enjoyed so much, was now a scene of horror and brutality. Every day, it felt like a nightmare afterwards. That section of beach had been closed all year, and thankfully, once COVID came and hit, it made it easier. But really, it's because we fear another attack. Until the forensics have more information, which I never received, and why would I was not an important part of any investigation, really. There was also a team of academics around the world who are aware of beasts like this and creatures that exist. Anyway, we need to keep a lookout for more reptilian creatures like this in the ocean, waiting to emerge to consume anyone or anything. Who knows what led it out here to the coast of this beach? Perhaps its food chain was disrupted, or maybe it changed its sights on what it was wanting to eat.